Hi YouTube, this is Robotnic of the Adirondack Rangers, and what I'm doing here today is to show you how to reseal and just clean up a WE M4 or SCAR PDW open or closed bolt magazine. Alrighty guys, so for starters I just want to show you some of the tools you're going to need. You'll want a flathead screwdriver, something like this, and then another thing you're going to need is a small screwdriver, almost like a eyeglass screwdriver or something like that, very small, with a Phillips head bit on the end of it. Another major thing you're going to need, and they sell these on evike.com, it'll be for $18. eHobby Asia has them, but a valve wrench. And now what this is this is a WE valve, that's the fill valve, and I believe that's a WA valve, but we're not going to use this end, we're just going to be using these two for this video today. Alright, and the second to last thing you'll need, which is a big important, is the gasket making material. And you'll need the screw-on, whatever you call this thing, that comes with the packaging. We'll screw that on, and I'll show you what you use that for too. And to lube the magazine, this comes after that the gasket making material is all dried and cured. You'll want something to lubricate with. I use silicone shock oil, which you can find that at any hobby shop, any local hobby shop. I know they sell on eBay and online and other places like that. But a big thing is you're going to want to use 15 weight or 20 weight for magazines. And just because it's a lighter weight and it goes well through the magazine. You don't want to use a heavy weight because then it becomes resistant. Alrighty guys, so we're going to want to take our flathead screwdriver, as you can see there, and we're going to want to just stick that under the lip there on the back of the magazine and just sort of pry it backwards. Just get it to slide out and then pull the rest of it out with your hand there and just set that aside. Then you're going to want to take your eyeglass screwdriver, and right where that small screw is there, right in front of your fill valve on the front of the magazine, just unscrew that, take that out, set that aside, make sure you don't lose that. And then you're just going to want to push with your thumb or a finger or whatever, get the inside of the magazine out. Then you have your outer shell of your magazine right there. You just set that aside for right now. And this is actually, I guess, the waterworks of your magazine, I guess you could say. You've got your release valve here and your fill valve here, and this is where your gas is inside of the magazine, and right there is where your BBs or your ammo would go. For starters, we're going to want to take our valve wrench here, and we're going to want to use the WE side of the valve wrench, and we're going to want to be very careful. Make sure, you know what I mean, our slots, you know, are fitting in the grooves and whatnot, and make sure you take your time with this, because you don't want to strip the valves. Because once you strip the valves, you know what I mean, it's sort of, you're going to have a hard time getting it out. And then just pull it right out, and that's what your valve will look like. Right there. Just set that aside. When you go to seal your mags, which you'll see in a second, you're going to want air flowing through, because that'll help your curing time of your gasket making material. And the same thing goes with the fill valve. You're going to want to take your time with that, use the fill valve end right there, and just take your time with that. That takes a little more pressure to get down into the slots. I find it's easier to work with one side of the wrench just because of the way the valve is. As you can see right there, that gasket, it's right on the fill valve. That's what was slowing me down there. Doesn't really matter. You just want to make sure when you're putting these valves back in that you clean them very well. You know, right on the O-rings there, and there, with the silicone oil or shock oil. And you just take a couple drops. You know what I mean. Just apply it and let it roll around the O-rings, and then screw them back in. And just make sure they're not soaking wet, but they're wet, so that the valves have a good seal. Same thing with both of those. So you just want to set those aside, and then you're going to want to take your big screwdriver and change the bit to a Phillips head bit. And then you're going to want to take these 4 screws in the back here. Well, first off, you're going to want to make sure you mark which side's the top, because it's hard to figure out when you got it all covered in gasket making material. So just make a mental note. I don't have a Sharpie or anything, so I can't mark which side's the top, so I'm just going to try my best to remember which side is up. So just take your screwdriver, start unscrewing these 4 screws, you're going in the right direction. And also these, I don't know if you can really see them, but these screws do have O-rings on them, so just make sure when you go to put them back in that there is an O-ring on it, so you're aware of that. Alrighty, now that we got our 4 screws out, we're just going to want to make sure that in the holes there, see that I have the O-ring is in the hole still. Just want to make sure, pry that out, or get it out I should say. And I guess just put that right back on your screw just so you know you haven't lost it. Then you're going to want to take your screwdriver, probably easier if I change to a flathead, and pop the top or pry the top off of the mag here. Just get it in the groove there and sort of work your way out of it. Work your way in, I should say, and then pry it off. There you go. Just going to sort of break that seal. As you can see, the previous owner has, because I bought this used, did seal this before. He didn't use a lot of gasket making material. You know, I wouldn't use a lot either, but I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't apply it sparingly, I guess I should say. But now this is the part where you can just spend as much time as you feel needed, just taking a screwdriver or a knife. I would like to have a knife, but I don't have one with me, so I'm just going to use a screwdriver. It's just scraping the old stuff if it's got old stuff on it. You're just going to want to scrape all the old stuff off. Alrighty guys, now that our mag is all scraped down, as you can see there, still got a little bit left, but that's okay. You just want to get the bulk of it off. This is the gasket that you're going to find with a new magazine, and sometimes, like with the old magazine, the previous owner left it in. For me, I'm just going to take it out, and I'm just not even going to use it, just because it's easier to just use more of the gasket making material than it is to try and fit the old gasket in. It's just way simpler. It gets a tighter seal without this in there. So you can use it if you want, but for me, I'm not going to use it. And this is the top part of our magazine. A way to identify top from bottom is if you can see right there, right where that's our bottom screw, and you can sort of see that with the top being up here is flat, and the bottom sort of has that edge, and it fits like that. And remember, our fill valve is in the bottom, and our release valve is up top. So what we're going to do now is just we're going to have our top and our bottom here, our back and our front, I guess you could say, our back plate or whatever you want to call it, and our gasket making material. What we're going to want to do is just sort of squeeze this out, and as you can see, I've put the new end on it here, and just sort of squeeze that out as best as you can. And I guess just get a good grip on it and just squeeze it on and fill it into the crevices and whatnot of the magazine. Just going to fill it in like that. Another way to do this is if you don't want to use this clear piece here, you can get a Q-tip and cut one of the ends off of it, and you can just sort of apply it on like that. But this is just easier. You can just squeeze it on as you go. And as you can see, I'm not using this sparingly. I'm just applying it on as thick as I can, and I'm going to do the same thing on the actual magazine itself. Just because the more is merrier. You're going to see what I mean when you push it and press it together and screw it on. It's going to ooze out the sides, and it just creates for a better seal when you have more, because it's going to find its way, you know what I mean, in every crack and crevice in the magazine. So just set that down right now, and then we're going to want to do the same thing here. Is just squeeze it right on and just lay it right on. And notice that our fill valve and release valve are still out of the magazine. You're going to want to keep those out until about for the whole curing time, and I'll explain that in a second. So just work your way the whole way down the magazine. There we go. You're going to want to be careful with this gasket making material, because when I did this before, I had this on my hands for a good week or so. Alrighty, so then we're going to want to take our top, or our back plate I should say, and remember that our top piece is going to be that flat side. So we'll just take that and just drop that right there. This is where our rag is going to come into use, or a paper towel. Just going to want to sort of get that centered down there and just squeeze it down. And then just so we're not wasting, we're going to want to take our screws that we had and just sort of grab some of that there. And again, you know, you don't want to waste, you know, or you can't. It's okay to waste. I guess it's not really wasting, because especially with the gasket making material, so the more you got, the better off you are. So just take all 4 of these screws, and you can either do it with that, or you can do it with the gasket making material itself. And just make sure you get all the way around the screw, and you can even go as far as you just maybe put a drop in the hole of the mag itself. Okay, get it in there. There we go. So that way you've got a seal around the screw and in the hole of where the screw is getting screwed into. Alrighty, we'll take our screwdriver. I'm just going to use the small one. Again, make sure you clean off your tools. And then this is sort of the important, well, I guess not important part, but it is all as important. Is, as you can see, it's all globbed on there. It's not going to fit well when it dries if it's all globbed and glued like that on your magazine. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our rag or paper towel, just wipe it like that. And you don't want to wipe it all off, because as you have that excess layer on top, that's going to be like a whole nother layer that seals that mag there. So just from the bottom down, just wipe it down, wipe it clean. This one's got a little bit extra on it, so we'll just give that a second wipe. There you go. Wipe that clean too. Then you're done. And again, you're going to want to leave your valves out, because that air that's inside there is going to be able to circulate around from there to there and get in and out, you know, as air can only do. It helps with the curing time of the magazine, and not the magazine, but of the gasket making material. So just make sure you leave the valves out. And another big thing is the valves, because you're putting a lot of gasket making material inside of the mag, the valves can get covered in the material, and it won't ruin the valves, but it's just not good for them to have all that, you know, the silicone material inside of the valves. You know, it's just not good for them. So just make sure you take your valves out, and for a curing time, I wouldn't put pressure on it or put gas in it for about 5 days. So I would let them sit for a good 5 days. The package says about 24 hours for curing time, but I would let them sit for a good 5 days, maybe even a week. You know, just to let them sit and cure. Alright guys, I hope that was helpful and fixed whatever problems you may have been experiencing with your WE M4 mags. And if you haven't liked us yet on Facebook, go there and do that, or subscribe on YouTube. But most importantly, go and check out our website at www.AdirondackRangers.com. Thanks for watching.